kaya naman tagpa more.
Yes, yan. Itag na natin ang ating mga kasamahan. And Miss Janet, to start with, no, gusto nating tawagin ang ating Senior Assistant Vice President for HRB RFO para sa ating welcome remarks. No? Let's all welcome Miss Jen De La Cruz.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, at magandang gabi po sa mga kababayan natin all over the world. When the pandemic struck, a lot has put on hold. The way we do things normally has been disrupted. Who knew that there would come a time the world needs to wear masks? But fortunately, we are on the road to recovery. We are now surpassing the crisis. Kaya naman po ngayong gabi, mga kababayan, we will give you good news about the Philippine economy and the status of property market. Let us see how developers like Filinvest will float above the stream, improving the building features that will respond to the requirement of the new normal. To all our investors, business partners, kababayans all over the world, thank you for joining us tonight, and I hope that after this event, you will be able to decide where to put your hard-earned money. Invest in our properties as we ride the growth momentum. Again, the best time to do it is now. Thank you so much and magandang gabi po muli sa inyong lahat.
Thank you so much, Miss Jen De La Cruz.
Yes, thank you, Miss Jen, our Senior Assistant Vice President. Ayan, and our HRB and RFO Head. Nako, napakaganda ng kanyang remarks. Ano? Pero syempre, hindi na natin papatagalin kasi napaka-espesyal ng ating speaker for tonight. Ano?
So, yes, maraming excited. Excited ang lahat, Miss Janet.
Yes, so prior to joining Colliers in March 2016, Joey worked as a research manager for a research and consultancy firm where he handled business, political, and macroeconomic analysis. He took part in a number of consultancy projects with multilateral agencies and provided research support and policy recommendations to key government officials and top executive of MNCs in the Philippines. Nako, let us all welcome our speaker for tonight, Mr. Joey Bondoc.
Hello, Sir Joey. Magandang gabi sa Pilipinas. No?
Hello, magandang gabi po.
Hi, Sir Joey. Welcome to our Vertical Property Market Forum.
Hello po.
Yes, nako. Wag na nating patagalin. Siyempre, we're very glad na pinaunlakan mo ang aming invitation, sir, para i-host ang ating forum na to.
Yes.
So, the floor is yours, Sir Joey.
Can you see my screen now? Can you see my screen now?
Sir, hindi pa po.
Wala
hindi
pa po.
namin nakikita. Ayan, nakita na namin.
Okay, sige. So let me start by doing a macroeconomic review. So for the first quarter of 2022, the Philippine economy grew by 8.3%. No? So this is the fastest GDP growth that we recorded over the past few quarters, especially after the pandemic, no, in 2020. So that's a good news. But when you talk about recovery, a major plank of this recovery is the implementation of infrastructure projects, no, all over the Philippines. In Metro Manila, the MRT3 is being rehabilitated, it's being upgraded. As you can see here, you have Clark Railway, Clark Airport modernization, the Metro Manila subway. You will have the new Manila International Airport also in Bulacan. So this will have a positive impact on the property sector moving forward. So as you can see, infrastructure spending is improving. No? Previously, we were only spending about 2-3% of our GDP on infrastructure spending, but this is starting to improve. So this is now at about 5 to 6% of our country's GDP. No? So when you talk about infrastructure allotment, it's now at about 5 to 6%. So this is very important, and I hope that this implementation of projects, no, subway, bridges, airports continues, no, even with the new administration, with the new Marcos administration. Of course, we're very optimistic with this new administration, and we hope that it really grows, no, at a much faster pace, no, especially again we have a new set of economic managers, we have a new president. But when you talk about recovery, another important factor is OFW remittances, no, so the money sent home by Filipinos working abroad. So we saw record high remittances in 2021. That's about $34 billion, and that's a 5.1% increase from $33.2 billion in 2020. So another good news is that these remittances are projected to grow by 4% this year, 2022. And important to remittances because they help drive the demand for residential projects. No, it's not just house and lot or lot only in the provinces, but also for the vertical projects, na for the condominium projects that we see all over Metro Manila. And especially now that we see students starting to go back, no, to school, face-to-face discussion, face-to-face classes. Of course, this will also drive the demand for condominium projects near universities and university areas. And then you also have projects near the MRT system, and this will have again a pretty good demand, a decent demand moving forward, because we're starting to see the Philippine economy and property markets recovering. However, we need to be careful with inflation. No? Why? Because in May of this year, inflation reached 5.4%. No? This is the highest in about 3.5 years. So kung merong as we say an antithesis, no, or something that might go against a fast economic growth of the Philippines, is the inflation the Philippine economy. It's the fast acceleration of basic commodity prices. So let's see if this will start to increase again, or this will increase further for the remainder of 2022. But what I can tell you is that the central bank is responding to this increasing inflation by raising interest rates. No, so for example, they imposed a 25 basis point increase to interest rates. No, so let's see if the central bank will or how the central bank will further respond dito sa pagtaas ng inflation. So let me now proceed, no, to the residential sector, and what do we see for the residential market. What's our projection for the residential sector in Metro Manila? But let me just give you a quick recap of what we saw first quarter of 2022. No? So for 2022, we're likely to see more completion of condominium units again because of the market that is starting to recover, and then also return to office mandates of a lot of companies will have a positive impact on residential leasing, no, or residential sales even. And then vacancy is starting to decline, meaning more condominium units are now being taken up in the market, no, being sold or being rented. So this will have a positive impact on the residential market moving forward. When you talk about the business districts that we monitor, we saw about 142,000 condominium units all over this major business districts that we monitor. Again, we will see more condominium units that will be completed in 2022. We are projecting 10,500 new condominium units that will be completed this year. And this is good news because it is indicative of recovery in the completion of condominium units. We have to note that, for example, in 2020, because of the pandemic that was affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, no, yung completion of more condominium units, and only about 3,300 units were completed during that period. Hold on. And again, this is much higher compared to what we saw in 2020. No, only 3,300 units completed, and then 2021 that's about 8,700 condominium units completed. So again, this is a very good sign, no? Meaning developers are completing more projects, no? Because they are anticipating a recovery in condominium demand. So this is the supply pipeline that we see, no, from 2022 to 2024. So there will be about 8,200 new condominium units that will be completed during this period. So again, that's a very healthy supply pipeline that we're seeing in the market. Vacancy is declining. Why is that a good news? Because ibig sabihin lang nun, more investors, renters are now buying condominium units. No, they're renting condominium units in the market. No, so again, that's a very positive news for the Philippine property market. And again, our projection is that we will end 2022 with a much better vacancy. And then 2023, again, we will likely hover at about 17.1% vacancy. You have to note that in 2021, it was not so good year, no, for the residential market. We ended the year with a vacancy of 17.9%, no? So medyo mataas 'yon compared to what we saw previous years where we would only have vacancies of 10, 11, 12%. But 2023 definitely we're projecting a much improved figure. That's a 17% vacancy. So that's a very good indicator for the recovery of the condominium market. And of course, we're all stakeholders of the property market. No? So if there's better take up, no, of or absorption of condominium units, we all benefit, diba? And we want improve the figures. And that's our projection. Even for rents, we're projecting rents to improve from 2022 to 2024. No, previously we were even seeing rental correction, no? Meaning, mas mababa yung rents because of the pandemic, no? After 2 years, we saw that. But the good news is that the rents are starting to increase again. They're starting to pick up. And this only means that more employees are returning to Metro Manila. And of course, we want that because we have condominium units that are for rent. And now we will be able to lease this out, no, to more employees. So that's again another good news for the residential or condominium market. So prices will recover again, no, 2022 up to 2024. Again, we have a new president, and we're very optimistic because we have a new set of economic managers. We have a new Department of Finance secretary. But looking at how condominium prices behave, no, from previous administration up to the current Duterte administration, as you can see here, there has been a healthy increase in average condominium prices, 1.4% during Estrada, 2.6% during GMA Arroyo administration, 9.3% under Aquino administration, and then 4% under the present administration, Duterte administration. So let's see if this growth is sustained. No, we would always get the questions like, "What's our projection for the Marcos administration?" Well, it's a bit too early to give projections or to provide data because he has yet to assume office, diba? He'll be sworn into office June 30. But if you look at the previous administrations, no, 12 months after they were elected, no, into office, usually prices would increase by 5 to 8%, as you can see here for the Aquino and Duterte administration. So that's an average of 7%, 12 months after they are elected into office. Now, so there's really a lot of optimism in the market because, of course, President Marcos was elected by what, more than 31 million Filipinos. He has a new set of economic managers, and a lot are really excited and are really waiting for the new president to lay out to give an outline of his new economic policies, of his 10-point economic agenda. So we're really waiting for the launch of this macroeconomic policies. And we believe that the property market will, of course, benefit once these economic policies are laid out. Of course, developers are also waiting, no? Ano kaya yung magiging bagong policy ni President Marcos? Will he continue the economic policies implemented by President Duterte? Will he continue build, 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 no? The golden age of infrastructure in the Philippines, no? So there's really a lot of optimism in the market. That's what I can tell you. In fact, we would have face-to-face briefings already with a lot of real estate platforms, real estate developers. No, so there's really optimism in the market. We can feel it, and hopefully we see that soon. No, especially with all these infrastructure projects being developed across Metro Manila, this will benefit definitely the vertical condominium projects. Diba? You have MRT 7. From Quezon City all the way to Bulacan. You have Mega Manila Subway, MRT 3 is being rehabilitated, LRT 1, Cavite Extension, LRT 2 Extension, New Manila International Airport in Bulacan. Really, a lot of new projects that should stoke the property market and result in the completion of more condominiums across Metro Manila. In fact, even during the pandemic, no, the developers were really aggressive in land banking and acquiring new parcels of land across Metro Manila, and we should see those projects soon. We should see more projects being launched, and then more projects being completed over the next 3 to 5 years. So we're really excited for the property market. We note the fact that 2017, 2018, 2019, as you can see here, they were really very good years for the residential market. Why? Because you have the POGO demand driving the take-up of condominium projects. We saw a slowdown 2020, 2021, and first quarter of 2022, again, because of POGOs leaving the country, some employees leaving Metro Manila and going back to their home provinces. But we will definitely see a recovery, no, for the remainder of 2022. And we are optimistic that we will see that moving forward. In fact, if you read the newspaper, no, there's a lot of good news recently. No, for example, if you read the yung latest na Business World remittances rise in April, and then the Philippines improving its competitiveness ranking. So that should encourage more investors, more foreigners to invest here in the Philippines, and of course, locals. So these are just some of the promos that were implemented by developers at the start of the pandemic. Discount on pricing, 10 to 15%, extended and flexible payment terms. They dropped reservation fees, and then they would provide free appliances, gadgets, and these promos were practically the same discounts and promos that were implemented after 2 years in 2022. Some developers even giving free aircon, free parking space. They would bundle that with every purchase of condominium unit, free bank fees, waived appraisal fees. No, so there's been a very innovative way of selling in the market, because again, the developers want to prop up demand in the condominium market, and of course, they also want to make sure that the investors are informed of what they offer in the market, no, at this point. That's why they organize a lot of webinars like this one. Some developers already implementing face-to-face briefings. So there's really a lot of excitement in the market. We can feel that even with these face-to-face webinars, even with or even with webinars or face-to-face discussions, and hopefully we sustain this optimism beyond the 2022. But there's some good news also, especially with the business expectation survey results of the central bank coming out positively. As you can see here, business outlook, that's 71.7% over the next 12 months. Again, that's a very positive news for the market, meaning more businesses are planning to expand. Previously, no, 2020, 2021, the business sentiment was in the negative territory, but now it's back with a vengeance, no? And it's a positive business outlook for the Philippine market. Now, there are things that we need to watch out for because, of course, the demand is improving. Definitely, economy is starting to rebound. We have a new set of leaders, but there are some indicators that we should also be mindful about. And number one, dito in return to office, which again will have a positive impact on the office leasing. In the first quarter of 2022, mas maraming office space ang na lease out, no, na rent sa mga BPOs. Again, this is indicative of a property market that is starting to recover. But also note that traffic is reverting to pre-COVID level. Ano ibig sabihin nito? Along EDSA, you now have daily vehicles that would total about 405, 410,000 cars daily. At the height of the pandemic in 2020, 2021, the daily count of vehicles was what, 200, more less than 300,000, no? But now this is starting to recover, meaning more employees are returning to office. Some of them, of course, they want to beat the traffic, so they will be renting out condominium units near their places of work, near their offices. So that will again benefit the condominium sector, condominium units that are for lease. Interest rate hike, as I mentioned, I think let me show this news again, no, from Business World. The incoming central bank governor, Felipe Medalla, signaling gradual tightening, meaning interest rates will increase moving forward. And in fact, the central bank already raised interest rates by 25 basis points, and there are reports that there will be further increase in interest rates, 75 basis points. They're looking at that pace of increase for the remainder of 2022. So these are just some of the indicators that we need to watch out for. While condominium demand will recover, also we're seeing horizontal demand, no, house and lot only developments really sprouting outside of Metro Manila. So we're likely to see more of these developments also moving forward, especially you have a stable inflow of remittances, and Filipinos working abroad continue to send money to their loved ones here in the Philippines. So that concludes my presentation. I think we are opening the floor for question. I hope you do ask questions, no, so that we can have a more lively discussion. Let's make this interactive, and hopefully you learn a thing or two from my presentation. So thank you for listening.
Wow, thank you so much naman, Sir Joey. Yan. Miss Janet, nakamute ka po.
Sobra akong na-excite eh. Ayan,
Ayun nga.
nakapalakpakan naman natin si Sir Joey. Sobrang daming insight sa Philippine real estate as of today. So parang there is may naririnig kami ng economic rebound, optimism, ayan, especially
Yes, at
within
saka
the
ang
government.
daming sabi ko nga, ang natandaan ko dito na ni-note ko, 'di ba? Imagine ang daming madi-deliver ng mga condo units, no? Year 2022 yun, Sir Joey, 'di ba? So imagine
That
ngayon
is
yun.
correct. 10,500. So that's a lot.
Grabe,
Wow.
no?
Oo.
Iyon. So may mga katanungan po ba tayo dito sa sa mga viewers po natin? Kung may mga question po kayo habang nandito po si Sir Joey, i-chat nyo lang po sa comment section at babasahin po namin. Yan.
Yes naman. So habang sila ay nag-iisip ng itatanong, ayan, may tanong lang ako, Sir Joey, kasi most of our viewers are OFWs or mga Filipinos abroad. So, kung magtatanong po ako, gusto kong mag-invest. Saan ba yung area na maari mong isuggest na kung saan talaga naman yung development ay in the near future talagang malaki ang aking magiging income pagdating ng araw?
Well,
Do you have
it
any
still
area in mind?
It still depends, but you have to look at areas kung saan malaki yung rental prospect, no? So, I would say if you have projects along MRT 3, along the key infrastructure projects, MRT 7, or once the subway is completed, I suggest that you take advantage of projects near those infra developments. Also, now that we are starting to see face-to-face classroom sessions, again, you have OFWs that are buying condominium units for their children, diba? So, of course, we're likely to see demand for these condominiums again picking up in over the next say 12 months because of the demand for these condo projects near these universities, especially now that we're seeing face-to-face discussion again or face-to-face classroom sessions again. So again, it depends on the profile of the investor. But I would say that, of course, in real estate, di ba sinasabi natin, location, location, location. This is very important. But you also have to look at the rental prospect, especially if you want to gain, for example, passive income. You're off W, you're earning well, you're sending in more money, but if you bought a condominium unit, of course you want to generate recurring income, diba? Passive
Yeah.
income, which you can use to perhaps buy another condominium unit, no? Save up on another condominium unit. So these are just some of the factors that we need to consider, especially rental prospect. No? And also, some of the W's naman, they're not really keen on renting out units, but they want to rely on the capital or price appreciation of their condominiums, no? After 3, 5, 10 years, and then they sell their property, they offload, and then they buy another. So these are just some of the considerations that we really need to closely watch out for.
Wow, thank you, Sir Joey.
Thank you,
Ang
Sir
gandang
Joey.
pakinggan kasi syempre as an investor no, karamihan po talaga ng ating mga buyer ay doon sa area nakabili malapit sa MRT 7,
Yes,
ayan sa
that's
yung
correct.
Yes,
subway
ang
and especially
advantage din kasi ng Philippines, 'di ba? Marami tayong mga new infrastructure projects na talaga namang halos tapos na, no? Halos inaugurate na ng nagpa-function na sila lahat. Yan.
yes.
Sir
And
Joey, may additional question dito. Yan, from Doris Marasigan. Sir Joey, is it a high time to into condominiums or house and lot projects? Ayan, so ang pinag-usapan natin, vertical.
yes. So siguro ang ano niya is high time ba to invest condominium ba or house and lot?
Ayan,
It
tama.
depends kasi usually what do we see no, at Colliers Philippines, when we talk about horizontal house and lot, usually end user market ito. For example, if I buy a house and lot unit in
Sila
Pampanga,
yung
I'm from
titira.
Pampanga, most of the time doon ka titira, di ba? Yun naman yung reason why they buy house and lot or lot only project. But if you are to buy, say, a condominium, because you are an investor because and you want to generate passive or recurring income in the future, so that they invest in a condominium unit and then they rent it out after 3 5 years or once the condominium unit is turned over to them. So it depends when you talk about investing kapag vertical, syempre that is really an investor market driven. Pag house and lot or lot only, that is end user market driven.
Ayan, ako thank you Sir Joey. I hope nasagot ito Miss Doris. At ito pa yung another question from Miss Caroline Abakan.
Caroline.
You mentioned that bank interest will increase. How soon will this be expected?
Oh, we already saw that. In fact, June, the central bank already raised interest rates by 25 basis points, so 2.25% now. And there are reports that the central bank will further raise that. No, ito, medallia signs gradual tightening, meaning the interest rates will further increase moving forward. The projection is that they will be raised by 75 basis points, no? So 2.25 sa magiging 3% na yung basic interest rate, which is used as a guide by commercial and universal banks whenever they lend money for real estate financing. No? So that should be closely watched out for, no? Yung pag-increase ng interest rate, because it's inevitable. The central bank, the central bank wants to avoid inflation. Ito na naman, no? So news, sabi niya is stagflation, not immediate risk, but inflation is starting to increase, diba? 5.4% in May. That's the highest in about 3.5 years. In fact, US Fed, no? Yung counterpart ng Bangko Sentral natin doon, they already raised the interest rates by 75 basis points. So pag nagtaas kasi si US ng interest rates, ang tendency is magpa-follow ang Philippines, because if you are trying to save money, syempre ilalagay mo yan kung saan mataas ang interest, diba? Especially for global fund investors. So instead na US lang nila ilagay, pag tinaas ni Philippines ang interest rates, ilalagay din nila dito. So ang tendency, mas maging attractive para mag-save sila dito. However, okay yan para sa investor nagsisave, but for someone that will buy condominium or house and lot, magiging mas mahal yung paghiram mo ng pera to finance your real estate requirement. So that's the impact of the interest rates being increased. And again, we're already seeing that.
Okay. So much better pala yung kung may mga nag-o-offer pa na mababa sa na
That's
bank
correct.
financing.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
correct. So we always say that the best time to invest is now, while the interest rates remain low. Especially pag demand nagre-recover na yan, baka hindi na makita yung mga attractive payment schemes or interest rates being offered, or mortgage rates that are being offered in the market. No? So there will be tweakings, alterations definitely moving forward once the interest rates further increase. And again, our expectation is another 75 basis point increase according to the central bank for the remainder of 2022.
Wow, okay. So ayan, at least alam na natin ngayon, 'di ba? So sir, habang nag-iisip pa sila, so meron lang akong itatanong So marami rin sa mga nanonood sa atin is nakapag-invest na. So during pandemic, wala pong nagre-rent. So any good news aside from mga nabanggit nyo kanina doon po sa ating mga investor?
Well, kasi kami, we monitor key events in the market and key movements. And again, nakikita namin na tumataas na ulit yung demand, no, for the condominium units that are for rent. We're starting to see that. And again, for the remainder of 2022, that will increase further because of students going back to Metro Manila, employees going back to Metro Manila. So the demand for these condominium units for rent will definitely increase. And that's good news that we can share with you. In fact, yung lease rates, they're starting to pick up again. We were monitoring these rates almost every week. So we're seeing that.
Wow.
Sir
So
Joey,
good news sa ating mga investors.
ayan, Sir Joey, related din to dun sa sa mga nagre-rent, no? 'Di ba nabanggit po natin kanina yung Pogos, no? Ngayon po ba nakikita na po natin na marami nang bumabalik na mga Pogos?
Okay, sa office market kasi, last na record namin for Pogos was fourth quarter pa of 2021. May maraming umalis, no? In fact, just to give you an idea, previously the Pogos occupied 1.3 million square meters of office space. Now that is down to only about 650,000 square meters of office space. So halos nangalahati yung office space that they used to occupy here in Metro Manila. They went back to China. They have not returned to the Philippines because the Chinese government is also clamping down on Chinese employees that are working in the POGO or offline gaming sector. So far, we're getting queries, but we have not seen them really materializing with their office leasing queries. What I can tell you is that anecdotally, no, syempre I speak also with some brokers, and according to them, there are some groups looking for multiple condominium units in the Parañaque, Las Piñas area. But these POGOs have yet to actually return and have yet to lease out or rent those condominium units. But meron ng feelers meron ng mga nagsasabi na, they might return. But so far, hindi pa talaga namin nakikita yung pagbabalik nila. May mga nagpapadala lang ng sentiment na pwede at they're likely to return. Pero wala pa talaga sila dito sa Pilipinas. Hindi pa sila mabalik.
Wow, okay. So, magandang insight 'yan, Sir Joey. Sir Joey, meron lang din pasensya na, ang daming question.
Madaming
Yeah, sige
question,
po.
no?
Yeah, in fact, I like this, no? Mas maraming questions, the better.
Yes.
Apo.
Sir, how do you see real estate investment in the Philippines 5 years from now? As a whole,
Okay. Real estate investment, no? I think it really depends on the new administration. We have a new president, who was democratically elected by more than 31 million Filipinos. He is forming his new economic cabinet, economic managers, and the lineup is being finalized. So there's really a lot of optimism in the market. But we hope that he continues pro-property reforms. So what are these reforms? Of course, you have infrastructure implementation, no? The build. We hope that he continues the build the program, which is again a very positive trend for the Filipino property market. No, so sana ma-continue yan. And then you have other projects such as decentralization, meaning the development of more economic centers outside of Metro Manila. 2 weeks ago, I went to Iloilo and Bacolod, and there's really a lot of optimism. BPOs are planning to expand, so that should have a positive impact on residential demand. Also, you have major developers, diba, that are land banking in these areas. So that only shows you that there's really optimism in the market. They continue to land bank, they continue to launch projects. So that should result in a more diverse real estate scenario moving forward, meaning more house and lot, more condominium projects being developed across the Philippines, more integrated communities, townships that house or host office buildings, residential projects, malls, even institutional facilities such as hospitals, as well as schools. So there's really again, the confidence is high. You saw that slide that I presented earlier. Business sentiment is back to positive territory, meaning more employees are now returning to work, more businesses are expanding, and are hiring more people. And again, that should have a positive impact on the residential market moving forward. We're optimistic, and that optimism is shared also by the developers here in Metro Manila and outside of Metro Manila. But again, we're also keenly watching for the release of the economic policies of this new administration. And we hope that we see those 10-point economic agendas soon. And then from there, we can tell no, if the Philippine property market will really benefit. But definitely, we're bound for rebound. And we're starting to see that both in office, residential, retail, even hotel and industrial sectors.
Wow, hearing from you, Sir Joey, nakaka-positive naman yan. At saka, you can actually feel dito sa Pilipinas yung pagbubukas talaga ng economy.
Yes,
Nako,
that's
eto,
correct.
meron pa tayo, Sir, another
So,
question. Ayan, Kuya
from
Maynard.
yan from Ludivina Varias, Sir Joey, does real estate do well in inflation?
Well, the general thought is that it won't, because if inflation is increasing, it only means that the central bank needs to impose higher interest rates because they need to temper yung impact ng inflation. No? For people, rather than spending and driving prices up, they would rather encourage or entice people to invest or save. That's why they would raise interest rates para mas attractive na save in the market and to curb spending. However, pag tumaas ang interest rate mo because of higher inflation, that also means more expensive mortgage rates. And more expensive mortgage rates means generally a slowdown in the residential or condo market because it's more expensive to borrow money to finance your residential requirement. Diba?
Ayan, but meron din siyang follow-up insight. But question, but the value of the real estate go up as well in inflation.
I wouldn't say inflation, but mas magandang indicator is the economic growth. Because if you have more economic activities in the market, there will be more developers that will be launching, meaning more demand in the market. And because of greater demand, there will be a greater push for the unit owners to raise property prices. In fact, I would not consider inflation as something that will raise property prices because it is an artificial increase to prices. What I would say are more sustainable factors that will help drive prices are number one, economic growth and the infrastructure projects developed by the government. Because I think you've seen this no, in previous years. If you have a residential or condominium project near, say, MRT3, definitely there will be a faster appreciation of capital value or price, diba? And even the rental prospect is better because you are near MRT3. It is a very integral infrastructure running along EDSA, diba? So I would say that economic growth supported by infrastructure development are better indicators of price or capital value appreciation of condominium or residential projects.
Okay. Ayan. So, I hope nasagot ni Sir Joey. Kasi at the end of the day, ayan, kapag ka maraming development ng area, talagang tumataas yung mga value ng property natin, whether we like it or not. Ayan.
Kaya naman
So,
sa Yes, kaya naman sa presentation ni Sir Joey, no, it shows talaga na parang wala na talagang pandemic, Sir Joey, no? So,
Yes.
we're
And
back na sa
yeah.
normal.
Again, if you want to get updates, so we're active on social media. So please follow Colliers on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, even YouTube. No, you have a YouTube page. And then I also type my email dito sa chat box. So if you have questions, you may send me an email.
ayan. Okay. So, ang
Ayan.
sabi niya, sir, sabi ni Miss Varias, yes, thank you a lot, Sir Joey, for the insights. Ayan. So,
Okay.
meron din question dito, si
Merong
Boris,
pahabol.
may
Yeah, sure
pahabol.
po. Sure.
Okay. Ayan. Sige, ako na magbabasa, Miss Janet.
Sige
Ayan.
po.
Sir Joey, you mentioned as per survey, there will be about more than 10,500 condo projects to be delivered. And since Pogo was actually been our top corporate tenants all
Mm.
over Metro Manila, so what will be the backup plans for the future unit owners, neither the leasing management companies to fill in the vacancies of the unit since there were no plans for the Pogo to go back in the Philippines?
Okay, there will be a slower demand for the market in general because admittedly, we can no longer fill the condominium units previously taken up by Progos or which they vacated once they left the Philippines. So admittedly, there will be a slower demand in the condominium market. That's why while we are projecting recovery in rents and prices, it will be a gradual, a slow recovery. So you still have, of course, local employees that are planning to rent condominium units, or the BPO employees, it's still expanding. So some of these BPOs are still headquartered in Metro Manila, and they will be requiring their employees to report to office. So they will be returning to Metro Manila, and they will be requiring a new condominium unit to rent. So this is one factor that will likely drive the demand again, with the absence of the POGO demand. It will be a slow recovery, and that's what we always say, even during our previous presentations, because yun nga, we no longer see the level of take up that we saw in the market at the height of the POGO demand in 2017, 2018, as well as 2019. But there will be recovery, definitely starting 2022. It's a much better year compared to 2020 and 2021, but it will be a slower recovery that we are projecting for the property market.
Ayan. Ako, thank you, Sir Joey.
Thank you
Ayan.
so much, Sir
Oo.
Joey.
So ngayon may another question pa tayo. Ayan, follow-up question from Miss Caroline Abrigo Abacan. Would you agree, sir, that the best time to invest is now since there will be increase in interest rates and property value and might be harder to invest later next year?
Yes, I would say that now is a very good time to invest again, while interest rates are relatively lower still, no, compared to what the central bank is projecting, especially given that the central bank is planning to impose higher interest rates. I don't know if you're familiar, but at the height of the Asian financial crisis, 97, 98, 99, interest rates were at about what, 20, 25% mortgage rates, or interest rates rather. Right now, interest rates are what, much lower compared to what we saw during previous periods of economic crisis, of economic downturn. So it's still a much better interest rate environment, I would say. So definitely now is a good time to invest. Not only that, again, I also mentioned the viability of projects near the developments near infrastructure projects across Metro Manila. And you still have a lot of projects due to be completed 2022 up to 2026, even up to 2028, even after President Marcos steps down. So I think it's better to invest now while these projects are still being constructed and completed, because once na-complete na yan, definitely mas tataas na yung value of the condominium projects near these developments.
Wow, ayan. So nako, kaya
Ayan. My
invest
second devotion
now.
kay Sir Joey.
Oh,
The best time to
mag-invest.
invest is now.
Best time to invest is now. Ngayon, Sir Joey, given the things that you've mentioned, do you believe that still real estate is the safest investment pa rin
I
para
would
sa
say so. Yeah, I would say so. A good hedge against inflation. As you saw previously, prices would average, or call the prices would grow an average of 6, 7, 8% annually. So that's a good hedge against inflation, which would probably average about 3, 4, 5% previously. So you still have that yield, no, versus inflation. So it's definitely a better investment prospect, a better investment option, especially here in the Philippines. We don't have a lot of investment options. Perhaps after a condo or house and lot development, you have REIT, real estate investment trust. But for these vertical projects, you can depend on price or capital value appreciation and then flip it, sell it after 3 to 5 years. So you can also earn recurring income or passive income, especially if you rent your unit out. So again, it is a viable investment vehicle despite the pandemic or even after this COVID-19 crisis, and as we recover from this pandemic, which started to disrupt the Philippine economy and property in 2020.
wow, nako, ayan. So sobrang nakaka-positive yung sinabi mo. May COVID man, may pandemic man o wala, still napakarami pa rin na mga pwede makuha natin in investing in real estate. Ayan. So meron pa ba tayong mga
Ayan.
questions? Nako,
So I
meron
think,
pa ba?
ayan, I think wala na tayong question
Oo.
dito additional. Miss Janet,
Sobra na,
at
oo, sir, sobra na silang happy sa lahat
oo,
ng mga nasagot ni Sir Joey. Pero Sir Joey, ayan, bago po tayo magtapos, ayan, do you have any message or last message sa lahat
advice.
ng mga kababayan natin na nakikinig ngayon na gustong
Well,
mag-invest at hindi pa
well,
nag-i-invest o nag-iisip pa na mag-invest?
Similar to what I mentioned previously, there's a lot of optimism in the market from developers, from landlords, from tenants, from investors, even OFWs that are planning to invest in the market. So that is very, a breath of fresh air, definitely, especially after we saw disruptions in 2020 and 2021. Please keep an eye on inflation, on mortgage rates, on the infrastructure projects being completed by the government, also on the promos, discounts, flexible payment terms being offered by developers. Take advantage of these promos that are out in the market, and also look at the viability of these condo projects that you acquired, and their feasibility of being rented out, or the viability for price appreciation, especially if you plan to flip them while still working abroad. I know that OFWs, of course, is a very good market for condominium projects. They account for 10% of our country's GDP, especially if you talk about the remittances, or the money they send back to the Philippines, and remittances will grow 4% this year. That's according to the central bank. So, as more Filipinos are deployed abroad, we will definitely see more remittances being sent to the Philippines. And that should, again, inject a much needed recovery and support the growth of the property development sector, especially the condominium market moving forward.
Ayan, wow. Thank you, Sir Joey, sa
Thank you.
napakaganda mong message and
Ang
insights
daming ang daming
kaming lahat.
magandang advices from Sir
Yes.
Joey. Kaya naman
Isa
Sir
yung
Joey,
natandaan,
maraming salamat po.
isa yung natandaan ko, take advantage of the promos. Ayan.
Ayan.
And lower interest rate sa bank habang meron pa. Nako, thank you very much, Sir Joey Bondok. Ayan.
Again.
Sobrang
So,
dami naming learning ngayon.
Thank
so
you
again,
po.
maraming salamat Sir Joey. Ayan, hanggang sa susunod po ulit. Magkita-kita
Yes.
po ulit tayo. Okay, thank you so
Thank you, Sir
much.
Joey. Bye-bye. Nako, eto na
Ayan,
nga.
grabe naman.
So, ang dami nating natutuhan ngayong araw na to. Talagang tumatak sa akin. Take advantage of the promos and the opportunity habang meron pa. And
Ayan,
speaking of promo,
yan, at dahil dyan sa promo na pinag-uusapan at sa advice ng ating guest kanina, grabe na ang mga promong ibinibigay sa atin ng ating
yes,
partner developer, no? Yan, Miss
yes,
Janet.
yes, Kuya Maynard. Pero bago yon, babalikan ko lang yung sinabi niya kanina, saan bang area napakagandang mag-invest?
Wow,
Siyempre,
malapit sa
ayan.
MRT.
Near MRT, near mga subway, near school because
Near
nag-o-open
malls.
na nag-o-open na ang economy, magkakaroon na tayo ng face-to-face. Kaya naman, ano ba yung mga project natin na malalapit sa mga areas of development? At ang maganda lang dito, meron silang promo.
Ayan, ano nga ba yung the best promo na ibinibigay sa atin? I think all these projects are ready for occupancy na.
Wow, so ibig sabihin nun, mapapakinabangan nyo na kaagad kasabay ng pag-bounce ng economy pabalik sa napaka-positive na news. Pwede nyo nang mahawakan, matirhan, magamit ang inyong property dito sa, of course, Vinya, located at EDSA in Quezon City. Kung
Ayan,
saan,
grabe sa Vinya, magkano lang po ang monthly down payment natin. So nag-i-start po siya ng 22,000 pesos only. Ayan.
yes, nako, 22,000 pesos sa napaka-busy na street, sa napaka-sentro na street. Ito na yung Vinya sa Quezon City. And of course, ayan, sa pagbubukas ng mga eskwelahan, meron tayong napakagandang promo. Ready for occupancy din ito. Ayan, sa Studio Sen. Along Taft Avenue naman siya, 17,000 pesos. Imagine that.
Yes,
Nako,
at syempre, eto na for a studio unit sa Studio Zen. 17,000 pesos only. 'Di ba?
at eto
May
na
good
nga.
news.
May good news. Nako, sino man sa inyo ang ayan,
Eto, papasok lang na
magkaka-interesa.
good news.
Oo, yung magkaka-interest at mako-close na sale sa dinidiscuss natin ng mga promo ngayon ay magbibigay ng ano to? Yan na.
Gift check.
Gift check sa Crimson gift check.
Yan.
Wow.
So, alam niyo po ba kung nasaan ang Crimson? Isang pinakamagandang hotel sa Alabang. Ayan.
Yes.
Kaya sa lahat po na mag-i-start po ng investment today, mag-reserve, meron po kayong chance na magkaroon ng libreng gift check para sa Crimson.
Ayan, ako. Good news,
Ito
good
na.
news yan. Yes, wow, wow, wow. At syempre, hindi lang yon. Kung gusto mo naman ng Makati, sabi niya kanina, location, location, location. And when we say Makati, wala na tayong masyadong explanation. We know the place, alam na natin kung yung development ng area, alam na natin kung ito na yung sentro talaga and we have a project and we have napaka-tempting na promo. Ayan, ready for occupancy din to. The Linear Makati starts at 19,000 pesos lang ang monthly down payment.
Wow, grabe, no? Yan, so ang Linear Makati po ay merong studio, merong one bedroom. Kaya eto, nag-i-start ng 19,000 lang monthly, ready for occupancy na.
Yes, nako, ayan. Wow, i-chat nyo na, i-tag nyo na, at kung sino man po ang magko-close ngayong araw na to, meron kayong Crimson gift check.
Yan,
Naku,
sino
may
sa inyo
another
gusto
project.
magstay ng libre sa 5-star hotel sa Alabang, di ba?
Yes, open na ulit ang Linear. At eto pa, may very, very good news. Meron tayong Dream Vibe. Malapit na malapit ito. Ayan, Studio A Katipunan. Studio A kasi malapit sa Ateneo. Ayan. Ay, grabe na yan. 15,000 pesos ang monthly down payment. So, ang maganda rin nito kung mag-aaral yung anak mo, yung apo mo, ayan, yung pinsan mo, hindi ka na uupa kasi meron ka ng sariling dormitoryo.
Sigurado na ang rentahan dito, Miss Janet, kasi yung face-to-face ngayon, nag-umpisa na. Nag-umpisa na ang face-to-face. Kaya naman, nag-o-offer tayo ng, imagine for a studio unit sa Studio A, 15,000 pesos monthly. Ayan.
Nako, ayan. So ano pang hinihintay natin? Ayan. Madam Belardo, mura na, close mo na, kunin mo na ito. Book mo na yan. Grabe, no? Book mo na yan, Ma'am Belardo, kasi meron ka pang gift check from Crimson ngayong
Grabe, sabi ni Nerly Bacolcol. Talagang dito na sinabi, no? I-close mo na. Di ba? Ayan.
Yes.
Mura,
ayan.
close mo na.
Okay, so meron pa ba? Nako, ang napakaganda ng mga promo na to, ha?
So I think ito yung opportunity. Ito yung apat na projects na meron tayong inventories, no? Kung gusto mo ng Quezon City, Viña. Di ba?
Yes, kung gusto mo naman ng malapit sa school,
Taft Avenue,
Studio Sen.
At kung gusto mo ng Makati,
The Linear Makati.
At syempre, balik tayo sa Quezon City.
Studio A Katipunan.
Ayan. So maraming salamat sa lahat, no? Ayan, okay. Gusto po naming i-remind ang lahat, please like and share our Facebook page, no? Freedom Business PH.
Ayan. Yes. So, pakilike lang and share. And comment na rin kayo. At pakitag po ito dun sa mga kasamahan natin, kakilala nyo, na sa tingin niyo ay magkaka-interest na mag-invest now. Kasi sabi nga kanina, may pandemic o walang pandemic, still the best investment is real estate. Ayan. So, kaya naman ako hindi na natin patatagalin kasi alam namin na magpo-closing pa kayo. Balikan nyo yung mga
Maraming
points.
excited
Go,
na
go.
mag-close. Pati ako, naiisip ko na kung sino ang aking tatawagan dahil sa ganda ng good news ni Sir Joey Bondok. Ayan.
Yes naman. Maraming salamat po. Ayan, sa ating partner developer sa paghahatid ng Vertical Property Market Forum na ito. Thank you very much. At sa lahat ng nanonood, syempre, Kuya Maynard, i-grab na natin ito. At ang sigaw ng lahat ng mga Pilipino sa ibang bansa ay
Laban OFW! Reach your life!
Thank you very much. God bless
Thank you so
everyone.
much. Thank you so much, Miss Noreen. Thank you so much, Miss Rika. Thank you so much, Miss Rodora. And of course, partner Janet. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.